بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. And I'll respond to those who always beat me to the salam. May Allah reward you for being so diligent. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah ta'ala, as we continue our weekly talks about the introduction to the Islamic sciences, I want to take a moment, if you would permit me, to address some things that I think are extremely important. Because initially, when I did this, these were so you can get the background of why I'm doing what I'm doing. You'll notice that these are still called Post-Fajr reflections. So there's a background to why I'm doing what I'm doing. Me as a person, I studied the way I studied Islam in the last 30 years, I say. So in the last 30 years, my method of acquiring Islamic knowledge was by the science of at-talaqi, which is sitting, and I mean that literally, sitting at the feet of a teacher with a book, with a pen, with paper, and reading and listening and writing exactly what I learned directly from my teachers. And this is the way that I learned. And for many years, I had a disdain for anything other than that. For me, the way I was taught was that Islamic knowledge must be taken directly from the mouths of scholars. That's how I was taught. And that's how I was raised in the middle stages of my Islam. So I said the middle stages. Why? Because when I started, I was 10 years old when I started my journey towards learning Islam. So to give you some context, I'm 50 years old now. So that's 40 years. So sometimes I talk as a joke with some of my fellow imams or quote unquote sheikhs and teachers. And some of those guys, they embraced Islam in the 90s, right? And they be talking like they got some skin in the game. Like, man, I'm not a rookie. I've been around a long time. Not in a way of boasting, but sometimes it's comical that, you don't even got enough experience to be talking like you're talking, right? So that's a side joke with them. They will get it. Even if you don't get it, don't go read too deep into that. My friends, those teachers who be with me and that we in the same circles, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So don't read too deep. And by the way, when someone speaks, don't go so deep. Try to give multiple interpretations of what someone's saying. Don't just take the first thing come to your mind and say, that's what they mean. It ain't always like that. Go give some leverage for people's thoughts, because every statement is usually related to an experience that a person has. So when a person says something, it's related to what they experience. Don't always include your experience in someone else's statement. It may not, and most of the time, it's not going to work. But anyway, so in the beginning of my studies, I was like everyone else. Whatever was available, I read. I tried to figure it out. I went through different groups, different organizations, trying to figure things out, trying to know what is Islam, period, right? And in my time, I want you to understand this. In America, in my time, when I first uttered the Shahada, Islam was black. Seriously. There was no concept of immigrants or Arabs in American context. They existed, but they were not popular. So anything that related to Islam, the word Islam in American context, especially in the inner cities, especially in the projects from where I come from, you only knew black people. In fact, in my city, immigration and Arabs and Pakistanis and Bengalis, Bangladesh people, all of these different cultures, they came way later. In the early 80s and all the way up to the 90s, they were a very small faction of the known Islamic population. When you thought about Islam in the inner city, all you saw was black leaders, black imams. That's how it was all around the country. And then slowly it changed with more immigration and more wealth going into the immigrant communities. You started to find immigrants. And I remember, and I got real stories. So I'm sharing you this, and it's related to Islamic science. So just bear with me, because I have to let you understand the context so you don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I remember when black Muslims, African American Muslims, had pride and dignity and honor. Even if they didn't understand Islam as correctly or in the context or in the structure that we understand it now, they had pride. They were proud to be a Muslim. And the things that happen today would never happen in the past. Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. Let's just make it like, those who know what I'm saying know what I'm saying. Those who don't, say alhamdulillah, the situation has changed and you have a little bit more leverage and flexibility. But I come from a time, not happening, right? So in those beginning days, you picked up Islam from wherever it came. And most of it had black pride, nationalism. You can even say racism if you want, whatever you want to call it. It had that kind of overtone, right? Doing for us, empowering black people. That's what Islam meant to us. Even though we prayed and we fasted and we learned Arabic and we read the Quran, but we were about the empowerment and upliftment of black people, no doubt about it. That went with Islam. So even today, that people now, they praise Malcolm X and they Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz and they go visit his graves, and that same spirit that he had was common in the black community all around the country. Imams were building communities, building schools, doing business. That was the spirit among Muslims in America. So that's how I came up. I came up in that kind of environment. Fast forward. My first experience to traditional Sunni Islam happened in Cairo, Egypt, when I was around 18, 19 years old. And my experience with Azhar University. That was my first experience, and that was in the late 80s, right? That's my first experience to quote unquote traditional Sunni Ahl Sunnah Islam. And I ran into it at Al Azhar University, which is the highest level of it. So from my starting in Sunni Islam, I didn't start in no group, no cult. I started at Azhar University in that type of environment. So that was my experience. And that's where I got my way of learning the way or the methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right? And the way of how to acquire knowledge and sitting with teachers and learning. And from that time all the way up to today, that has been my methodology of learning, that traditional student-teacher relationship, right? So I can look at it in a structure of a teacher, a book, and a student. So everything we learn, teacher, book, student. If I learned about Aqidah, a teacher, a book in Aqidah, and a student, which would be me. If we learn al-fiqh, teacher, book, student. Learn hadith, learn Quran, learn usul al-fiqh, learn usul al-hadith, learn tasawwuf, learn seerah, the concept, sheikh, book, teacher, student. That was the concept. All right, with that said, that's been my way. So everyone who knows me personally know that about me. Imam Amin, the way he is, sit down and learn. All this internet, all this reading books on your own, that's not how we do it. Everyone who knows me know that's my methodology, right? Those who know me, because those on the internet, you're getting to know about me. You don't know me. Those who know me, and many people know me, they know that's how I am. Very conservative in these issues. But I have a group of young brothers, and I credit them. Others too, but it was a group of young brothers in my masjid who like, Imam, you need to be online. You're never going to reach people the way you want, trying to get what you're trying to get across if you're not online. But for me, it's not my methodology of learning. But however, I would always be online typing, putting Islamic posts. If you go through my timeline on my personal page, you'll see I'm always putting some kind of advice or some things, not videos, but just sharing. So I said, you know what? I believe that the person needs to come sit with the teacher. I don't believe in just sitting online behind your computer, not paying attention, talking about you took knowledge, right? I just don't agree with it. However, what I did realize is that there are people who don't have the opportunity to sit with a teacher. See, everybody in my masjid, they're there. So they cover from book to book to book to book because they're sitting with teachers. I bring my teachers, we cover books. They're used to that. That's just, it's available for them. But not everyone else around the country may not even have that kind of access. They just don't have it. Ain't that they did nothing wrong. They have a saying in Arabic, "Faqidu shay' la yu'ti." The one who doesn't have a thing can't give it. So they said, please go online. So I started. They have a little barbershop talk, and I credited it because they was the one that really pushed me. And I used to go in the barbershop and get my hair cut. And these guys are from my masjid. They're my friends. They're brothers. They're younger than me, but I love them, So I would entertain with them, sit with them and do barbershop talks and, all kinds of crazy stuff that they do. And I realized that it was effective. They were reaching people, right? So, and they were always encouraging me, go just teach a class, go teach a book, just do it, right? So I started with doing these reflections. In my mind, it was just scattered thoughts, things that come to my mind that I could share, and I don't got to prepare. I don't got to be in teacher mode. I can just relax and talk, right? Which, by the way, I prefer to do. I don't really like to be in a box. I hate boxes. So that's going to get to my post. I hate a box. I don't even wear certain clothes because I don't like to feel squeezed. Subhanallah. Uh, so my intention, this originally with the Post-Fajr reflections, was a time that I'm free after I do my devotions, pray Fajr, do my weird or do the things I need to do. I'm free for a minute. I can breathe, I can think, so I can talk. So that was the idea of Post-Fajr reflections. And it was fluid. It didn't have a structure. It just whatever came to my mind at the moment, whatever I was reading, whatever I was thinking, and just share it. This was to get me comfortable with the medium of online, right? Because I'm not comfortable normally in this type of environment. And then from that, I saw many people, they were benefiting and they were learning things that they hadn't heard, and they were having access to information that they didn't have access to. So I decided, okay, mashallah, let me move it up a little bit and start to slowly teach and share this structure of learning. So that second stage I told you was my stage of just learning with the teachers, and that's it, and with the books and students. And if you don't come to me, you won't want to sit down and learn a book, I'm not going to spend time with it. Now I'm in my elder stage, half a century now, and I realize that the world is different. I realize that the world is different. It's not the same. The next generation is different. They're not the same as we were. I'm not saying better, I'm not saying worse, I'm saying different. And you got to come to grips with the reality which we live in. If Islam is to continue to grow and grow in a progressive manner, I'm not talking about growing just in numbers. I'm talking about also growing in quality and maintaining this legacy that was passed down to us for over 1,400 years without losing it, then we better take every single medium that is available. You should take every single medium that is available to convey the deen and not lose its purity and its context, but also let it fit into the present reality. So here I am online and trying to do what we can do to help. So that's the background of this. And my intention is to give each of those who want it what I received of my experience with teachers for over 30 years. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us to acquire quite a lot and to cover quite a lot. And more important than the knowledge, the experience, which is very essential to your Islamic development. It ain't so much how much you know, it's how much you're aware of. Your experiences are valuable. They're priceless. Knowledge, you can get it. You know, it's available. Experience is not that easy to acquire, right? It's extremely important that you become experienced. And when you become experienced, you know how to handle the knowledge that you have. You know, it is the master and the apprentice. You know, the apprentice learns a lot of things, but they don't have experience what to do with that knowledge they have, so they may make a lot of mistakes. Whereas the master may have forgot more than the apprentice knows, but the master has the experience. So sometimes you'll have a wise student that learns more than the teacher, but the teacher has experience that the student may not have and know how to put that knowledge in context. And I'll give you a funny story. I have two students that have become my teachers, which is an honor for me. They were my students. They started out and they weren't really they didn't know the sciences of the religion at all. But they learned and they acquired and they spent years and they put it in. And then they went on, they studied with others till they became among my teachers. And I'm honored by that. And every now and then, we have discussions and experience kicks in over their knowledge, right? And they would say, back to the student days when but they understanding that, yeah, you're learning, but you still got to experience. One day you have to, all that stuff you learning, you have to put it in practice. And that's when you're going to get experience. When you come out of apprentice mode and you got to get on the field and you got to really learn how to be a soldier and not just your training and no one's shooting back at you. So you look like you're a marksman. But when you're under fire, you might realize you can't shoot that good. You know, that's the experience part. So that's what I want to share with you. The knowledge, that's one part of it, but I want to also give you experience. Why am I mentioning all this? I don't know if it's all you're following me, but I made a post yesterday and I got so many inboxes and questions and, you know, because I guess I confused some because they were doing what I don't want to be done. It's oftentimes when you come online, you expose yourself to the whole world. And our world, unfortunately, today is very misguided as a whole. The world, I'm not talking about individuals, the world as a whole is really misguided, right? And I say misguided, I don't mean just Islamic, like innovation or disbelief. I mean, the worldly concept today is just way out there. You know what I mean? Like we are misguided in our thinking, misguided in our morality, misguided in our principles, just is a mess. And may Allah give the world afiyah, but subhanAllah, it's really bad. So anyway, so I put a post. Let me see if I can find it quickly and read it. Okay. Yeah, here was the post. And this is going to relate to what we're talking about. So don't get distracted by what I'm talking about as if it's off the subject. No, it's very important to the subject. I put, I don't fit in any Islamic group or organization's box. I've never seen any of them that doesn't have practices which are better to be avoided. So please stop trying to place me where I have no desire to be. Thank you. And that was my post, which some understood, some were confused, and some were even, for lack of a better word, insulting because they didn't understand what I was talking about and they had me in a box. So let me explain what I meant by that. Number one, and this is where you're going to come to the Islamic sciences. Number one, every single person on the face of the earth today, everyone, I don't care who it is, every human being on the face of the earth is not the standard of Islam. You hear that? No matter who it is, every person on the face of the earth today is not the standard of what Islam is. Islam is the standard, and every person on the face of the earth has to fit within the standard of Islam. In other words, men are not the truth. Truth has its own standing, and men are known by the truth. This is a statement of Imam Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Sayyidina Ali and others. They said, men are known by the truth. The truth is not known by men. Know the truth and you will know its people. Please write that down in gold if you have a pen. Now, you can't write in gold, but I mean, it's so important, a golden lesson. Here, Because I know those, hey, what are you telling people writing gold? No, subhanAllah. It's meaning that it's that important. That's what's meant. The truth has its own standing. So Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah, Islam, its correct practice, has a standing of its own. It doesn't need us. Rather, we need Islam, right? So from understanding that, no one else should represent your Islam. Islam for you should be something that you have a personal relationship with your Lord and in following Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's extremely important that you understand that, because a lot of times people practice their Islam through individuals, through people, through organizations, and this is a mistake, right? Islam has a standing of its own. Islam, Ahl-Sunnah, correct Aqidah, correct fiqh, correct tasawwuf, correct Arabic language, correct knowledge of hadith, correct knowledge of fiqh, correct knowledge of usul al-fiqh, seerah, any Islamic science was here before everybody on the face of the earth. Do you understand that? So before any of us were here, all of these sciences were available. None of us came and created something or developed something that didn't exist before. SubhanAllah. This is extremely important for you to understand that. When you understand that, you will never become fanatical about any human being or about any group. I don't care who they are. You may respect an individual's knowledge, an individual's piety, right? And you may give honor and esteem, and you should, but you will never exceed the bounds by making that person, that individual, the end all of everything and the final decision and the final explanation of this vast deen of al-Islam. If you do that, you have been deluded and you have made a major mistake for yourself, your family, and everyone who trusts you. That's serious, right? That's one side of it. So now, with that in mind, that means that you have to learn what Islam is before you follow a person or join a group. Why? Because if you don't know Islam yourself, what is Islam that existed before that person or that group, you're susceptible to be misguided or misinformed or even abused by that group or that individual. So they have in the suburban community, and I make a distinction because some of this stuff just would not happen in the inner cities, but nevertheless, it happens in the suburbs, and then they got this sheikh abuse. And the term is funny to me, sheikh abuse. What the heck is sheikh abuse? I know what it is in your context, but I don't think it's sheikh abuse. I think it's individual abusing themselves by not learning Islam. So they say, the sheikh misguided me. The sheikh did such and such. He's what they call it, a predator sheikh. Maybe if you learned your Islam, he couldn't prey on you, right? Maybe if you learned Islam before you jumped in some group as a groupie or as some kind of, fanboy or girl and learned your religion first, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Maybe you would have known that this is not Islamically valid, right? If you would have learned your religion prior to joining, right? Knowledge, as Imam al-Bukhari said in his Sahih, in the book of knowledge, he has a section, Bab ilmun qabla al-qawli wal-amal, or al-ilmu qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Knowledge, the knowledge must come before any statement or action. Among the actions is following somebody. If you don't learn, how you going to follow? You have to learn first. So if you didn't take the time to learn your religion, all you did was the guy who made you, he got a lot of followers. He's good on the internet. He's, persuasive and charismatic, and you followed him and didn't learn nothing about the religion except what he told you, then that's your fault. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Talibul ilmi faridatun ala kulli Muslim." Seeking the knowledge of the religion is an obligation on every Muslim. So you have to learn. He didn't say following so-and-so among the sheikhs or the female sheikhs or so-and-so among the organizations is obligatory on every Muslim. He says seeking knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim. Not following your organization or your sheikh. That's not an obligation. Is it an obligation to have a teacher, to have a sheikh? Yes, that's an obligation. To learn the religion, not for the sheikh himself. And as our teachers always said to us, that the sheikh is to guide you to Allah, not to himself. Right? That teacher takes you by the hand to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that takes you to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. That's the job of a teacher. That's extremely important. So if you want to stop sheikh abuse, you want to stop cults from developing, you want to stop organizations coming, taking your resources out your community and using it for themselves and sending it somewhere else or building off your backs, then you need to learn your religion. I want to share something with you, a story, because I'm giving you from my own experience. I've seen it for 40 years. I've seen so many would-be scholars, would-be sheikhs, would-be spiritual guides, would-be saviors of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. We're the best that ever came on the planet. Man, I've seen that stuff so much. I could give you volumes of books of stories of this type of behavior. But if we learn our deen, we would be dismissing a lot of this stuff with the ease. We would understand this is excessive, this is extremism, this is right, it has these things right, but these things are totally wrong. We will be able to dissect these things, right? But it all comes from learning your religion. So a person may ask, for instance, someone asked me, they said, first thing, I want to go overseas and study. And people get shocked at me when they come to me with that. I say, don't do that. They be like, what you mean? I want to go to such and such a place. I want to go to Mauritania. I want to go to Morocco. I want to go to Egypt. I want to go to Syria. I want to go to Lebanon. I want to go to Yemen. I want to go to Saudi. I said, learn your deen first. Don't go nowhere until you learn your religion. You don't need to be in Saudi Arabia or Egypt or Syria or Yemen or Morocco or Mauritania or Pakistan or India or Bangladesh to learn the basics of your religion. You don't need to do that. It's not necessary, right? It is available, especially in our time, where you could learn your religion in a detailed way with a lot of information to give you a scale to weigh things. And then after you have that scale, by all means, travel wherever you want. But if you don't got that scale, you are making a mistake. And most of the people I see who went overseas, who came back, they will tell you the same thing. They realize that, man, I wasted 4-5 years of my life that I could have took advantage of even before I went overseas. I'm not saying don't go overseas. And I don't believe everybody needs to go overseas anyway. I believe we need more people on the ground working and teaching and educating. And then we need some that's going to go and get specialized things. And that's all I think you need to go. I don't think you need to go somewhere else and become somebody else. I just totally disagree. I think it's a mistake. I think you need to go for specific things, for a certain learning, for a certain period of time, and come back and do the job of calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is just my opinion. It doesn't make it the necessary fact. It's from my experience, what I've seen, and what I believe we need as a community here in the United States of America. But anyway, I remember an organization leader. He was the president of an organization. I want to tell you the story. He remembers me when I was just, and I'm still just, but I'm just with a title now. When I was just a student seeking knowledge, before I was Imam Amin, before I had Masjid Muhammad, before I was traveling and with other people and on different stages, before all of that, he remembered me, and he was a student with me, so he remembers. But he's an Arab, so he got a little specialness to him. Al-Azatmihi, according to his thoughts. He came to me, and he hadn't seen me probably in about 10 years, maybe 15 years. And he came to me, and he said to me, I want to talk to you. I love the things you're doing. I hear a lot of good things about what you're doing and teaching the knowledge and, spreading Ahl Sunnah. But I have some things I need to talk to you about. There's some things I like what you're doing, and there's some things I don't like what you're doing. And I looked at him, and I had everything in me to control my desire to give him a piece of my mind, how I really wanted to give it to him. But I said, it's not necessary. I'll get the point across another time. I said to him, there are things, I said, that's a good idea. There are things that you are doing that I really like, and there are other things that I am not pleased with, and I need to talk to you about. You should have saw his face. I said, you do realize that I am a leader just like you. Do you realize that I have a community and responsibility and families and children, and I have to run an organization just like you? In other words, what I was saying to him was, in the words of one of our great Black African-American leaders, I'm not your Negro. And you know what I really wanted to say, right? I'm not your Negro. And you know what that really means, right? Not happening. You're going to respect me just like you want to be respected. I ain't your slave. You can forget about it. And you're not even that knowledgeable to be asking for that kind of stuff. Just as you remember me, I remember you. Please. And why do I say that? Because stop being inferior to people. That's how people look at us. They'll come to someone and automatically, as a Black man, you're inferior, or a Black woman. So you're not Imam so-and-so or Sheikh so-and-so, you're brother. La hawla wa la quwwata. And who are you? Right? Nah. Absolutely not. Remember I told you in the early days in the Black community, there was pride and there was dignity? Yeah, we need to return that. No. We know our religion. There's enough of us who have decades of studying in our community. And we can run our own communities, and we can guide our own people, and we can do the job, and we can cooperate with others. We don't have to be isolated, but we do have to be men and women who are raising family and children, and you better act like one. You need to have that. So anyway, that's my little rant, because that stuff just right over my head. It really gets under my skin. Sometimes I just want to go pow, but not allowed to hit a Muslim in the face. SubhanAllah. So what I mean by that post, because I'm going like way off my thought pattern, but it needs to be written down and gathered and put in a context. So what I meant by that post is, I'm Sunni, I'm Ahl Sunnah. I think you already gathered that. Let me explain it for whoever don't follow. I am Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in my methodology. The way of the prophetic way, the people of the prophetic way, and the majority of the Muslim nation. In Aqidah, in belief, I follow the school of Al-Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And the methodology that he laid down, and thousands of scholars from his time, which he died in the year 324 AH, all the way down to today, over 1,000 years, scholars all over the world have followed this methodology and creed. I am Ash'ari in my creed. So don't get that confused, right? Secondly, in fiqh, I follow the madhab of the great Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i. I am Shafi'i in my fiqh. That is my methodology that has reached us from Sayyidina al-Imam Shafi'i, who died in the year 204, all the way down to us today. My teachers in the Ash'ari school have an unbroken chain back to Imam al-Ash'ari, and my teachers in fiqh have an unbroken chain back to Imam al-Shafi'i. This is the way we learned. I have asanid, I have ijazas, all of those things, and not ijazas, just someone wrote something. I actually sat with my teachers and read books and studied. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not confused about this thing. I'm not a blind follower. I'm not somebody who just, my sheikh is this, so I'm this. That's not me. And that's not nobody in our community. That's not how we do it. We actually studied books. We actually sat and learned with our teachers. So these are not fake ijazas that we didn't hear anything. No, there's not that kind of involvement. We actually learned. And in terms of tasawwuf, I have more than one tariqah that sheikhs have given me. So I follow the path of traditional tasawwuf. So you can't put me in like, oh, he's just this and he follows this. No, I have many routes that I've learned from in the science of tasawwuf. I understand the science of tasawwuf as an integral part of our spirituality. And I have a special relationship with my teacher who don't want to be known at all, don't want nobody to know. So, and to me, these are the best of shuyukh. They're not famous. They don't want to be known. Don't spread my name all over the internet. Don't spread my picture all over the internet. I'm not interested. If you do it, that's going to be the cutoff of our connection. That's how my teachers are, right? So that is my structure. And that is the structure traditionally of Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right? So that is me. Now, so what did I mean by that? So someone asked me, are you not Ahl-Sunnah? Then that means you ain't been listening to me. I don't know what you listening to if you have to ask me, am I Ahl-Sunnah? Like, you haven't been listening well at all, right? And maybe you should stop reading posts and listen, right? Seriously, like that. I don't know how did you come with such a question. But anyway, I don't consider Ahl-Sunnah an organization or a group. Ahl-Sunnah is the methodology how Islam has reached us in an authentic way. That's Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah represents all of our Islamic sciences that have been conveyed from the Prophet ﷺ and his companions and the followers after them from generation to generation till it reached us. Islam, in its proper way of conveying, is what is understood by Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And not to say that a person who is not Ahl-Sunnah is not a Muslim. That's not what is intended. What it means, the way that we can ensure to the best of our human ability that the Islam we have today is the Islam of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is this methodology of knowledge transfer that is known as Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's it. If we understand that, then you understand you're not in a cult. You're not in a group of some specific organization. Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah covers the whole history from the time of the Prophet down to us and the whole world that is a global movement, right? And within Ahl-Sunnati wal Jama'ah, you have many strands and ways of conveying that knowledge, of practicing it, In spirituality, you have different madhahib, you have different schools, different spiritual paths. All of that are embodied or covered under the general umbrella of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's one aspect of it. Now, when I'm talking specifically, you don't know how many questions I get. Are you, and I'm using these names only just to give you the range of the questions. Are you Ba'alawi? Are you Rifa'i? Are you Naqshbandi? Are you Habashi? Are you Brelwi? Are you Deobandi? Are you Subhanallah. That's what I mean. You want to put me in a specific box. And you shouldn't put no one in a specific box. Because all of those, if they're following Islam correctly, or is this your sheikh, or is this your sheikh, or do you follow sheikh so-and-so? What do you think about sheikh so-and-so? What do you think about? If we are Ahl Sunnah, then sheikh so-and-so, whether it's this group or that group or that group, it don't matter. You Ahl Sunnah, that's the important thing. And Ahl Sunnah has its principles before all those groups and before all those sheikhs. So if you know the principles of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, which are the principles of Islam, you don't need to talk about all that other stuff. You're following the correct way of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Khalas, that's it. Finished. Done. That's it. It's not a big discussion. Whether you are Ba'alawi or Rifa'i or Qadiri or Naqshbandi or Shisti or Shadili, long as you're following Ahl Sunnah. But if you any of them and you're away from the methodology of Ahl Sunnah, then your title don't mean anything. If you follow this organization or you belong to this organization or that organization, if you're not following the methodology of Ahl Sunnah, your organization doesn't help you. So that's what I mean by not being in a box. My organization that I belong to, that I'm heart, soul, blood, and spirit, that I'm a part of, is Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City. That's my organization. That's the masjid I attend. That's the community I live with. And that is where I give all of my everything. But that doesn't exclude me from working with others, from partnering with others, from being brothers with others. But if you want to know what organization I belong to, Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City. That's my organization. I don't have two organizations. I got one. And that organization is enough for a lifetime of work that I need to do for me personally. I got elders, I got parents, I got teenagers, I got young adults, I got babies. I got a lot of work on my hands. And all that energy needs to be serving that group is way more than I can handle. So for everyone out there in the internet world that want to know what's his organization, Masjid Muhammad of Atlantic City. That's my organization. That's where I work at. That's where I put my energy at. Now, with Masjid Muhammad, I believe that we need to cooperate with other masjids, other organizations to spread Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, to spread Islam, and I do that. Hence, you see me working with Ummah, United Masjids, Making American History. I have to clarify those letters. Because I believe this is a work, as myself at Masjid Muhammad, I got to do. Imam Suleiman got to do the same thing at Atlanta Masjid of Islam. Imam Jihad got to do the same thing at Isla LA. Imam Fatin got to do the same thing at Masjid Sabur. Sheikh Imam Hamza, he got to do the same thing at Midtown Mosque. Imam Fahim Lee got to do the same thing at Kuba Institute. Imam Naeem got to do the same thing at Masjid Mu'min. And all the masajid around the world, these are just friends that I'm very close with. We all got the same work. We're in the inner cities. We're struggling to do our job to save our people from the destruction of this world and from the destruction within Islam. Because there are destructive elements that come in the name of Islam that will put us in slavery just as fast as the white man will put his knee on our neck. Trust me. And I ain't deluded about that. There will be some that come in the name of Islam and will put their knee on your neck. And it will be a much worse death than someone physically trying to kill you. They will destroy you for generations. And if you don't know, all you got to do is look in the inner city and see what some of these foreign entities, foreign movements, foreign sheikhs have done to the Black community and ripped our community apart, that the damage may not be repaired for another 50 years. So we got work to do. We don't have time to actually go about joining someone else's organization. I'm telling you, here's some arrogance when you're dealing with this. And my advice to you in closing is, I'm speaking specifically to African-American Black Muslims. Yeah, I'm speaking directly to you. So everyone else, what I'm getting ready to say doesn't apply to you. It doesn't. And those who know me, I don't need to make a disclaimer, but I will make it anyway. I have students that are white, that are Arab, that are Pakistani, that are Bengali, of all cultures. I've helped people. My teachers are from all different backgrounds. So, but I got a certain concern. And you know that about me. So just know, the one who don't know me just don't know me. The one who knows me know how I feel. I'm concerned about my people, because if we're not, no one else will. Trust me. Not at the level that's going to make any change. For Black Muslims, for African-American Muslims, you must learn your deen to teach your own people in the context that they can relate to. Don't expect nobody else to do that. Don't expect no one to come in your neighborhoods and educate you. It's not going to happen. And if they are, be very, very, very careful. It may come in the form of slavery through education. Be careful. And there's no slavery greater than mental slavery, because the physical slavery, you eventually is so oppressive that you're going to fight to get out of it eventually. But the mental slavery, because you can't see it, will stay for generations. And we have to remove the mental chains that's on our minds and on our hearts that make us not be able to build our own communities. I'm not one who likes to blame everyone else for our misfortunes. Nah, we need to be accountable for ourselves. If we learn the Islamic sciences well, we learn our religion well, we can be like everyone else. And we can build our own communities and we can be having pride in our own institutions. We did it before. We didn't have all the Islamic concepts right, but we did it before. I tell you about myself. I grew up as a kid in my first beginning Islamic experience in the Ansar Allah community in Brooklyn. We had our own masjid, we had our own businesses, we had our own schools, we had our own money. We had no foreign money in that community. Zero. Islamically, we were misguided in some issues. Okay, we're not misguided anymore. Why we can't do the same thing? In the nation, we had our own stuff, build our own communities, build our own businesses. All right, we had some misguided concepts in the nation, right? Why don't we fix them and still do the same work? Why did we fix the concepts and lose all of our independence? Explain that. I don't understand. Is that somebody else's fault? Yeah. They mentally told you stop doing for yourself. And you brought it. Hook, line, and sink. And then they taught you a doctrine that made you an enemy of yourself. So they've given you an Islam that hasn't served you well. You know, my family always says, how does that working out for you? Right? Nah, it's not working out. And we got to wake up and by experience realize that's not working. And we got to do something different. My part in that is to take everything I learned and to give it to you. To make it accessible, to make it available. So that no longer you got to depend and this is for my brother Mutti, you no longer got to depend on Mr. Charlie to teach you. You got your own people to teach you. Mr. Charlie's my code word for the other man. Right? You don't got to worry about Mr. Charlie dictating to you what is Islam. You learn it yourself. And you have pride in yourself. And you have built a level of scholarship that is respectable. And we might not see it in our time, but if we start the process, our children will. And our children won't be in this condition of begging anybody for anything. Don't do it. And don't be shy. You know, don't be shy. Don't scratch your head when you don't itch. Don't dance when there ain't no music. Don't laugh when it ain't nothing funny. Have some dignity and have some pride in your Islam. Allah gave you Islam to make you noble, not to make you someone's slave. The only slave you should be is a slave of Allah. Period. And that is what I have to say about that. So for me, and I would hope for all of you who are in that condition, don't follow nobody's agenda that don't support your agenda. Don't follow no one's mission that don't uplift your mission. If they're not doing nothing to advance and change the condition of your people, don't pay them no daggone attention. I don't care who they are. Don't just give me religious rhetoric and you're not really trying to do nothing. You're not really trying to change the condition. I don't need your religious rhetoric. The same information you got can be found somewhere else. You didn't make it. You are just conveying. No, seriously. Don't let people get too big for their britches. You have to be honest. And when you do that, they'll respect you more. They might not like you, but they will respect you. And I'm going to give you an example. Do you know why? All of us in the Black community, we know that our brother in race, he's Black. He's a Black man who stands to help and try to help the condition of Black people. Louis Farrakhan. We may disagree with him in religious tenets of faith, no doubt about it. We totally disagree with him, right? But you notice we the only ones that have that position. Those foreigners, they invite him to their countries. They honor him like he's Sheikh al-Islam. They do all that. You know why? Because he's a strong Black man and they respect that. They may not agree with all of his theology, but he's a strong, powerful Black man and they respect that. And no matter how much you on the sunnah and dressing up and being like them and talking like them, they don't care nothing about you because you ain't powerful and you don't got no pride. And they would give him money to support his institution before they would give you anything. And he has enough pride and dignity and faith in his people that he just don't take their money. And we should learn something from that. With the truth, then do the truth and do the right thing. Build like he has built with what you consider falsehood. And I disagree with many of his ideologies, right? But nevertheless, I respect his manhood. I respect how he's teaching Black people to do for themselves, which we all should be doing, to have pride in themselves. I agree with that. Your religious principles, you need work a lot. But I do respect your manhood and your pride for your people. I respect that. And I wish more of us had the same thing, right? I wish more of us had the same thing. Instead of sitting back criticizing everybody while we do nothing but talk and pretend like we on something. All right, my rant is over. I hope you get my point. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm talking about these things. And even those things that may seem basic, understand I'm trying to empower us with the knowledge of the religion. I'm trying to make accessible something to us that everyone else, I've noticed, use it to control us. They use the sheikhs to control us. We have access to the sheikh. If you want to get to the sheikh, You got to come to us. You got to support our organization. You got to bow down and you got to kiss our hands in order you to get a piece, a drop of what the sheikh has to offer. I don't need you. I can go do it myself. We speak Arabic. We understand Arabic. We've traveled all over the world. We'll go get our own sheikhs. In fact, I'll do one better. We'll produce our own sheikhs. That's what we got to do. I know, this is the bitter black man speaking. All right, so I went from Imam Amin to the bitter black man. Alhamdulillah. But somebody got to say something. So may Allah help us out. May Allah continue to guide us. And let's spend our time really learning. That's my purpose here. So you know why I'm doing, you know what I meant. And those who know. Because a lot of us, we stay suffering. We know that we're being treated like a second-class citizen. We ain't stupid. But we've convinced ourselves that that's necessary for us to be good Muslims. To let somebody trample all over our dignity and pride and treat us as we're nobody because we want to be Muslim. Really, I have a word for that. I just got to stay in my lane of being Imam Amin. But that's some sucker stuff, seriously. You letting a dude, you can't even whoop you in a fight, boss you around, and treat you like you nothing. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This stuff makes you want to cry, man, what we've become as a people. That's why they want to put their knees on our neck, because we ain't break them in half when they did it. All right, let me stop before I say something, get myself in trouble. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakumullahu khaira. Inshallah, tomorrow we're in Aqidah Tahawiyah and the Book of Assistance of Imam Najat for the weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.